What is up with Solo Sikoa? Ever since the War Games, it's one thing to be an enforcer like Arn Anderson. It's another thing to not be quite on the same page as the group. And the group doesn't seem to notice, especially on SmackDown this week. I mean, you had Jimmy Uso, who was saying, my dog. Come on, my dog. You know what they were saying? Jimmy and Jay throwing a party for Sami Zayn. It was smiles across the board. But not on Solo Sikoa. Even at War Games, everybody putting their fingers up. Not Solo Sikoa. Arms folded. Now you could pass this off and say, well, he's the enforcer. He's the strong, silent type. That's what he's there to do. That's all he's there to do. Maybe. Or maybe he's got ulterior motives. What would I like to see happen with Solo Sikoa? Well, Ric Flair said on a podcast that he didn't like Sami Zayn with the Bloodline because he thought it was too much of a comedy act. I'm not saying Ric Flair doesn't understand nuance, but I think there is a lot of nuance that is not being given credence to, if that's your opinion on the story. All that said, there were a lot of hijinks in the ring on SmackDown. Sami Zayn has brought a lot of the yuck-yucks to the Bloodline. Solo Sikoa is not one for the yuck-yucks. Solo Sikoa is the only one. When Sami Zayn said Usi and Paul Heyman, the tribal chief, head of the table, Roman Reigns, Jey Uso and Jimmy Uso all broke, Solo Sikoa didn't break in a very real way. He stayed stone face. I think that maybe this character, Solo Sikoa, is not thrilled with the way Sami Zayn is bringing the yuck-yucks. The way Sami Zayn is bringing the laughs to the Bloodline, is bringing the entertainment to the Bloodline. I think Solo Sikoa might feel that Sami Zayn is softening the Bloodline. Solo Sikoa is not going to go against the tribal chief. But that doesn't mean he's going to like it. That doesn't mean he's going to involve himself in these things. Solo Sikoa doesn't play around. Solo Sikoa was raised in these streets. He's a street warrior, okay? He's not going to call Sami his dog. He's not going to go, oh, boom, 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 with his famous high five with the Usos. That's not going to happen. He's not going to call Sami Uso, because he was there. He grew up with the Anawais. He grew up as part of the tribe. And the problem is that I can only see this ending with the dissolution of the Bloodline. So I can't see this happening anytime soon. But there's two ways that this could go. One is that the tribal chief, the head of the table, is smartened up by Solo. And we see the Usos get thrown out. And Roman and Solo, work as a team to give the Usos the business. But I think there is also a possibility that Solo Sikoa may be more in tune with the tribe than the Bloodline realizes. When the Bloodline began, Roman was not the tribal chief in the sense that he was in charge of the people on SmackDown that were in his family. Roman Reigns was the head of the table, not only on SmackDown, but for the entire Anawai family. There was a lot of emphasis placed upon the Samoan dynasty in wrestling. The Samoan dynasty was the most impressive, most important, most dominant dynasty in the history of professional wrestling. And that is the table that Roman Reigns sat at the head of. In the months that have followed, the emphasis has been far more placed on the Bloodline itself, the faction that we see on SmackDown. Paul, Roman, Solo, the Usos, and Sami. What if Roman has lost sight of the original tribe? What if Roman has lost sight of the Samoan dynasty that we very rarely hear about? But Solo hasn't. Solo is the one who in the past has painted his face to pay tribute to one of the very few that you could argue is the all-time top Uce, Umaga. That's Solo. What if Solo is the one that's carrying the legacy of Umaga, of Yokozuna? What if Solo is the one that's there for Rikishi and the Head Shrinkers? What if Solo is the one that is talking to Roman's father and Roman's uncle Afa, the Wild Samoans? What if Solo is representing the Samoan dynasty because he doesn't feel that Roman Reigns is? What if Solo is being groomed to be Roman's first post-Bloodline opponent? I think that there is a possibility that very long term, we are looking at seeds being planted for a possible Roman versus Solo match. And if that's what is happening, you have to believe that Roman, Solo, Paul Heyman, and whatever other brilliant genius brains are surrounding this thing are orchestrating that right now and thinking about what that is going to look like right now so that by the time that we get there, people aren't going, how are you going to pull this off? Solo's like had a handful of matches. No, we're ready for it because we've been planning this for a long time. The way I look at it and the more I think about it, I think that based on Solo's behavior, there is an inevitability that we will see Roman versus Solo Sikoa, with Roman still considering himself the top dog, but Solo considering himself to be the one that's representing the Samoan dynasty.